On the Wado Radio Show.
Yes, man, it's DJ Wado. It's the Wado Radio Show. It's more than music, it's ministry. And I have a rapper, an activist, an artist, a father. Am I leaving some stuff out, brother? Let me know. Actor, you still doing that? We may see you in some movies or something?
Not as much as I used to.
Okay,
yeah.
You retiring that, but you still a filmmaker, though.
Yeah, to some degree I help direct, mostly my stuff, but yeah.
Yeah, but you do all that, man. Sho Baraka, man. What's up, my brother?
I'm well, brother. As well as I can be, I guess. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. So for those of y'all that don't know, we're recording this on Wednesday, the day after the election. So there's a lot of people. Everybody's shell shocked right now.
Bro, I didn't know it was gonna hurt this much, bro.
Sure.
I did not know it was gonna hurt like this. I've been pretty vocal about my disdain for both candidates.
Yep.
There was a part of me that just didn't believe that Trump can become president.
Yeah.
And it's not that he's president. Well, yes, it is. It's that he's president. But it's also so many other elements, and I'm sure you have a whole bunch of questions. So I'll leave. I don't want to dive into too much into it. But it's just there's so much there's so many other elements that have created this pain, this trauma right now in me. That's like I'm trying to figure it out.
Well, I think this is the thing, bro. I think that's what really needs to be dealt with. You know what I'm saying? Like his being elected is the result of a whole bunch of other stuff that we've never really dealt with. You know, like I was telling one of my homies today, and I would love just your thoughts on this, but I was telling him, because he's not as connected in the kind of the church world as we are. Like he's a believer, but he's not a minister. He's not an artist. So he doesn't have the kind of conversations we do. And I was like, one of the things that the church has never really dealt with is racism for real. Like you don't even see no pictures of like Billy Graham with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. really, because even back then, you know what I mean? It was like, that's what it was. And we've never dealt with that. So now you have a candidate who, for all intents and purposes has been extremely divisive, but yet evangelicals feel like this is the guy that the Lord sent and that we need to elect him. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't get it, bro.
You just answered. You said it all right there. I don't even need to say anything. But no, exactly. The problem is, historically the church has done a terrible job in affirming the dignity of people of color.
Yep.
When the nation has raped and pillaged and stolen the land and degraded folks, the church, for the most part, and I hate generalizing it, but for the most part, the Western church, the American church, has been alongside of it, assisting and aiding in that raping and that pillaging and that degrading of people. And though there were Christians who also came alongside and said, this is not right, we must change this, it was usually Christians who were Christians of color or white Christians who were different in thought. And I think what we have now is this similar divide where people who have been influenced by kind of like the dualistic thought of separating your religion from your everyday life have allowed this mindset to seep into them that God is going to affirm, like God's messengers come in the form of politics, and he's going to get his job done through politics. And that it's not the Christian who needs to engage systems and to deal with racism. They don't believe that systems can be broken, right? These people I'm talking about, they don't believe that systems are inherently problematic and broken.
Yeah.
They just think it's like, well, each individuals have issues and you guys need to work out your issues.
Yep.
But it's like, no, what you have to understand is that we have systems that have been created that are unjust. And just because we don't see the physical oppression right now, what we absolutely still have is mental oppression.
Oh, yeah.
We have systemic oppression, where we have institutional where people have been denied loans, home ownership, ability to live in property, to obtain property. And now what we're seeing is a president who suddenly is, speaking in code that wants to reinforce some of these ideologies that people have fought against for so long. So when you talk about immigration, right? I mean, just simply let's look at it. Like all the things that the platforms he's leading on are inundating a white supremacist thought that gets people to feel like, yo, yeah, there is something wrong with this nation, and it's not white people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So if it's not white people, then who is it?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Because then it's immigrants, right? Oh, the problem with America are these immigrants that we are allowing. We need to stop immigrants. Well, what's the other problem? The other problem is these African Americans who can't walk down the street in their own communities. They're killing each other. We got to do something about that. Let's start talking first. You know what I'm saying? It's not the police. It's them. Oh, Muslims. Muslims are the problem. Let's forget the fact that in every scenario, America has created the problem. They've created the problem mostly in the Middle East. That's an overreach, but a lot of the wars that are happening in the Middle East is because of America's meddling.
Yep.
The way that we've resourced militias and we've created tyrants like Saddam Hussein and Osama bin Laden. These are people who were at one point in time allies and individuals we helped and assisted. Talk about immigration. Well, we stole their land. We basically created a nation on top of them. And now what we're saying is that they're no longer allowed to frequent this land. And then you talk about communities. Well, man, you have hundreds of years of oppression, 100 years of prejudice, and now you expect and you relegate poor people with no job, no resources, no economic structures, poor education to a 6-mile radius, and you expect them to have healthy families, good jobs, and love one another. So what you're going to have is gang violence. What you're going to have is people robbing one another. And we have to start thinking more deeply about a lot of the issues. And so the church, right, and I know I'm rambling right now, but the church of all people should recognize, like when somebody speaks in these type of languages and this type of code, that it's extremely dangerous, that it's scary, and we should call it out. And the problem is that what they've done is instead of calling it out, and when I say they, when we talk about 80% of the evangelical vote went to Donald Trump, that's scary.
Scary.
And so either we have to start redefining what evangelical is,
right,
or like maybe there's some folks who ain't really evangelical. But the ultimate point is that if that statistic is true, and those people voted for him, then they have a misconstrued view on how the Bible calls us to love one another and see one another as image bearers.
Well, I think one of the things, man, for me that this election taught me is just how committed to the different political parties various groups are. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so it's
true.
like
absolutely.
So it's like, you mentioned the evangelicals with the Republican Party, but then you have African Americans with the Democratic Party, particularly with the Clintons, given their history of mass incarceration and all these other things. And it just kind of makes you wonder, like, why do we feel like these are our only options when, there's other candidates that are running, but two, I mean, are we just beholden to a party, or are we voting our ideals and principles here?
No, we're definitely not voting. And if I can generalize African Americans for a second, for the most part, and I definitely won't accept pushback on this, but I would say for the most part, African Americans, especially African American Christians, aren't voting all of their values.
Right.
What they're voting is part of their values, also along with the fact that the Republican Party seems to not have any kind of real concern for them. Yep. And so one was like, all right, well, they don't like us, then we'll just move all of our votes over here to the Republican Party. Now, there's a stat, like, no matter how you cut it down, no matter how you compartmentalize people of color, if they were given 100% control of each electoral college, they would vote Democrat every single state. It don't matter if it was educated. Like I'm saying, if you just took people of color who are educated, if you took people of color who are poor, if you took people of color who are men, people of color who are Like, it doesn't matter. They would vote Democrat. And that's so troubling.
Yep.
And the reason why I say they vote some of their values is because you ask like African American Christians, like, do you one, for instance, like, do you think abortion should be legalized, especially like in its third trimester? Most will say no, right? They believe in the same thing. Like, you're like, all right, do you believe in school choice? Do you believe like your child should be able to go to the school that you think they should go to?
Yep.
Like, you shouldn't be forced to. They will say, no, I believe I should be able to put my kid, but that's a Republican issue, right? That's not a Republican issue. That's a Republican stand. They're like, do you believe that the government should tell you what to do with your physical body, right? Like, when it comes to like regards to healthcare, it should make you have healthcare. It's like, no, the government shouldn't tell me I should have to have healthcare.
Right.
That's a Republican stance, right? It is like, well, and even like gay marriage, right? You know what I'm saying? So these are things that I think that oftentimes, but on the flip side, we do care about social work. We care about social reform, care about welfare. We care about issues of like criminal justice, and those are the things we tend to lean on when it comes to the Republican Party. And I get it, right? Because I can't sit here and act like I'm above the first. Like, I get it. I get why we're closely tied to it, and it kind of started in the late '60s with MLK and Lyndon B. Johnson, and from there, it just kind of it just moved and matriculated to where, like, the Republican Party just knew they wasn't going to get the black votes. Then it was just like, you know what, let's not even care. And this is how Donald Trump became so infamous. And if anything, before I get to that point, if anything, this election has made me realize that black folks are still an extreme minority in this country.
Yeah.
No matter how many of us go out there and vote, guess what? You still, like, your vote matters to a degree, but Trump was able to pull another minority out of the woods, and that was poor white people.
Right.
That brother brought them folks out like it was like a party on St. Patrick's Day.
Well, here's the other thing, though. Here's the other thing, bro. He actually has less votes, overall votes, than
Hillary Clinton.
No, Hillary Clinton, but also Mitt Romney and John McCain.
Yeah.
Like, he like, it's almost like he scared people so much that they just decided not to vote. But the other
thing is, like, the problem is that Hillary Clinton got votes where it didn't matter.
Right.
So, like, she kept accumulating votes in places where she was probably already going to win.
Yep.
And in large masses of places where she, like, in electoral areas where they were the predominant, like, Democrats and liberals were the predominant voice.
Yep.
But Trump did an amazing job of getting the rural vote, rural vote, for getting people. And the reason why this is interesting and scary is because this speaks to the white scare that he fed into. It's just the idea. Guess what? Like, we have to get America great again because we have to take our country back. And what does that mean? Take our country back from a couple of different people. I've already mentioned it. From minorities, from foreigners, and from gay folks. Because what I think the gay community and the whole, like, sexual liberation movement did, which is very similar to the moral majority and the religious right, is they bullied their policies through.
Yeah.
So in the 60s and 70s, what you had is the creation of the religious right, and they were mad because of liberal neutrality. They were mad that the government, that people expected Christians to vote without their values. It's like, no, don't engage your vote with, don't engage politics with your religious beliefs. And so they were like, no, we're going to do this. And then what you have is a bunch of folks who are bullying things through without having real conversation and having compassion. People are trying to progress through power. And so, well, now what you have is the gay liberation, the sexual liberation movement are saying, like, hey, what we're going to do is do what the religious right did to us. And we're going to push through the DOMA Act. They're going to push through these transgender laws, the bathroom issues. They're going to bully states into passing these laws, or they're going to protest, like, the NBA and all this other stuff. And so, to some degree, when you hear Trump talking about take your country back, it's like, I get it. like this fear
Yep.
that he's perpetuated within them has them thinking like, yeah, you know what, we do need to start taking control. And the problem is that we're continuing to see people fight each other with power, not with compassion.
So
and
good.
that's what we're going to have to, at some point, somebody's going to have to say, you know what, let's have civil discussion on how this country is changing. We're not the same place we were 50, 60 years, 10, 15 years ago. People are going to have some conversations. And how can we do that with compassion and not privilege and power?
Well, here's the thing, bro. The church should be the ones leading that discussion, you would think.
Absolutely. But the church is too busy, afraid that those same people are taking over their country. And so what they want to do is they want to use politics to promote their agenda rather than dealing with the issues in compassion. So it's like, oh, well, you know, gay rights is wrong, so let me, you know, we're going to fight to push this through, bully this agenda and this bill through without having a civil conversation like they did in Utah. So Utah, I think it was Salt Lake City, they developed a bill out there where the Church of Latter-day Saints and the LGBTQ community got together and said, hey, we both want freedoms, right, to exercise and do what we feel will create human flourishing for both parties. So they created a religious liberties bill that benefited both sides. Now, was it perfect? I'm pretty sure it wasn't. I've seen some people on both sides criticize it. But the thing is that they sat down and had a civil discussion and said, you know what, this is what we want, this is what you guys want, let's come to an agreement and create something. That's how you get things done.
Right.
That's politics. That's healthy politics.
Man. Yo, I wanted to ask you this, bro. Did you time your album to be in this political season?
No, that's the Lord's doing, bro. Bro, honestly, if I could drop this album would have been dropped in 2015. There's a line on Soul 1971 where I say you wake up in 2015 like you never had a dream.
Yeah.
So I had intentions on releasing the album in 2015.
Hilarious.
But, the Lord, he did his thing, and I wanted to go back and change that line, but they were like, nah, man, just leave it alone.
It flowed, though.
Yeah, it did.
It flowed. I mean, I know some of this backstory. You shared this with me in terms of this was going to come out as a group album, and then some things happened, and you know what I'm saying? Like, here we are. But just even, like, once the Humble Beast thing, I was just like, man, this is just too perfect for you to be putting this record out, and then you and Prop doing the tour. You know what I'm saying? Like, just around that same time, you know?
Yeah, it's truly the Lord. I can't take any credit. It's crazy. Like, I want to think that I'm some mastermind. I'm some branding genius. That I worked all this in the back quarters of my house and was like, this is going to happen.
Sure.
And this is going to happen. And therefore, I'm going to drop this single. Nah, bro. It was simply... just God's timing, bro.
Yeah, that's good though. That's good. Let me ask you this, because I haven't had a chance to really talk to you about this album at all.
Yeah.
Because we did an interview not too long after you signed, was the last joint we did. And I never asked artists this, but I'm just curious, man. Did you read our review of your album?
I didn't, man. I saw Michaela. Is that how you say her name?
Yep.
I saw Michaela post it, and I kind of started to read it, but I told myself, don't get in the habit of reading reviews, because like, don't do it, because it's not good for you. It's not healthy. I haven't read one review yet, and I still don't read reviews. I made a mistake of reading a review on Talent 10 and got pissed off and like reached out to the dude.
Wow.
And we had like a 2-hour discussion. And that's why if I'm not going to read it when it's bad, and I'm not going to tweet it when it's bad, then I'm not going to read it and tweet it when it's good.
I feel you. That's real, though. That's real. You know yourself, bro.
Yeah.
You know yourself, man. What's your favorite song on the project, man?
That's my son. You know my son. He's talking about my son being daddy right now. My favorite song is Piano Break.
Really?
33 AD. Yeah. It's so many. I think one is because I've told many people this. I like to think I'm a dope rapper. I think I'm a dope thinker and writer. But that song right there, bro. I honestly, it's a moment. It's like it was Matthew 16 where Jesus was like, "Flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, Peter." And I really think that was one of those moments for me. Like, flesh and blood did not write that song. Now, obviously, it's not perfect because I'm sure somebody can find something wrong with it, but I think it's the most beautiful song I've written. One of the most beautiful songs, probably well crafted argument, like top to bottom, just espousing this thought, like, all right, there's this narrative that we're dealing with, but where's the hope? You know what I mean? Like, where's the hope? Like, we've discussed some of the successes and we discussed the pain and the struggles. But at the end of the day, we can't just talk about issues and consciousness without there being some hope at the end of it. And I feel like Piano Break was this very honest depiction on where I am, who I am, and what I hope for, and what I think I see from my perspective. And I just love that song, man.
Well, I feel like, man, you have this unique ability to communicate and discuss social issues at a high level, but also communicate and discuss gospel issues at a high level and merge the two so that it actually sounds natural. Like, so it doesn't sound like with some artists it sounds forced, or they're just not good at it. But you're actually, it's like you're good at both. So it's like, you know,
maybe like, both.
Yeah, I guess it makes sense, man. The 30, that would be your favorite joint.
Yeah, I've gotten a lot of that exact compliment in these last couple of weeks from many people, and honestly, that's kind of like what I wanted to hear, because I know there's things that, like, I just wanted to feel authentic. I wanted it to feel authentic because I really feel like it is authentic. Like, I feel like it's me. Like, that's the complexity of this album and who I am. Right? I'm this Christian who grew up in a household of a Black Panther.
Yep.
Who was taught to read and to think a certain way, but then he becomes a Christian, and he starts to become, there's these identity conflicts that he begins to have, and he's like, well, how do I process through being this Black gentleman who understands Black history and wants to, and desires to love who he is and love his history, while at the same time not making it the ultimate thing because I have to surrender it unto Jesus. But I also don't want to be oblivious to the issues out there in the world. And I just wanted to make that album, and I felt like, I just feel like that's who I am. And I at some point, sometimes you write music, or sometimes I write music, and I try to think, man, am I doing too much of me? I'm like, people want to hear a trap song, like people want to hear like a dance song, like people want to hear, and I'm like, I don't know how to do this stuff. It's so weird. Like, even Excellent, the song where I'm just trying my best just rap, right?
Yep.
I'm like, I just can't rap. I have to talk about something when I rap.
It's the area you're from, though.
Yeah, that's true. That's true too. So I don't know. It's
the era we from, bro. Like I thought it was interesting. Like, Common's album came out, like, I think like a week after yours or 2 weeks after yours.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a huge Common fan. I still am. But I was just like, man, there's always that, the other part of the perspective that was always missing from what he was doing. Now, when I was younger, before I was like really a Christian, you didn't care. But,
yeah, absolutely. Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, when you're a Christian, it's like you actually, it's like I actually care about that stuff, because it's like I still need to know what informs that. And so
absolutely.
I get it, man. Like, I get it, and I appreciate it, and I feel like, bro, like, we need to celebrate dudes that do that. And I feel like I feel like sometimes we don't, man. It's like it gets the I don't know, the Christian rap community, even the church, the black church, even the evangelicals, like, it's like sometimes we want to dismiss that, like, don't talk about the social stuff, but it's like we need that. We just need to talk about it in a certain way that's informed in a, from a certain context.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, man, I look, and that's where I think there's a lot of issue with this election, is that you said it earlier, is like at some point we have to have these discussions. Well, we never really had discussions. You can think about the whole, I mean, let's go as far back as the emancipation.
Yeah.
You have about 200 years plus of slavery.
Yep.
And all of a sudden you're like, oh, you're free. Like, that's it. That's
now
the conversation.
Now what?
It's like, you're free. Well, then the government is like, all right, well, let's do the Freedmen's Bureau. We're going to try to institute this Reconstruction.
Yep.
Where we have to force a particular part of the country to allow folks to vote, to allow folks to run for office, to allow folks to be human. But then another president comes in and he's like, all right, let's create a compromise. If you guys remove this, we'll work this out if you remove your federal presence in the South. And so they remove that, and it goes back to basically a different form of slavery. And so we're in this system for about a good 100 years.
Sharecropping. Yep.
Bro, you got peonage laws. You got folks who, you got the voting rights are restricted. You have people who are going to jail just because they're standing at a corner in the city and they can't identify themselves. So it's like they go to jail and they get sold into slavery, but a new form of slavery, which is the prison system. And that system has been perpetuated ever since. So my thing is that we've never really dealt with a race issue. It wasn't until, I think, 5 years ago that the American government actually apologized for slavery.
Right. Yep.
So I'm like, yo, we've never had a real discussion. Because even in the 60s, where people were segregated, you guys were like, well, this is the way of life. This is the way of man. Like, this is how it's supposed to be.
Yep.
Like, my mother lived through segregation. Like,
yeah.
Word, this is not that long ago. Let's not try to make it seem like it was long ago.
Yep. Yep.
Right? My grandmother, who is still living, couldn't go to any school she wanted to go to because she was black. My mother, until she was about 11, couldn't go to any school she wanted to because she was black. So it's a very disheartening thing. So we assume that those people who wanted the George Wallaces and the Bull Connors, those people just died off. And they didn't have kids, and they didn't reproduce themselves in their ignorance and their hate and other folks. And so to think that it's Obama's fault that we're at where we are now is the most ridiculous and heinous, egregious act. You know what I mean? So when we get down to it, you're right, man. We have to have conversations, but it has to be honest conversations before there can be any kind of reconciliation.
You know, something else I thought about this morning, bro. We're talking about rural America in the conversation. Like, a lot of people, because that part of the country is so segregated in and of itself, there's not a lot of black people that really live in rural areas. And then if they do, even the black part of the rural area is segregated from the white part of the rural area in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
So, like, what happened with a lot of black people is in the 10s, 20s, 30s, you know, the 1910, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, when we started migrating up north, we came up north because we were getting lynched in the South. We were afraid.
Absolutely.
We left. We left the plantations. We left the farms. We left those areas. And with us leaving, now all of a sudden, you had all these people who grew up for years and years and years and never interacted with black people. Never interacted with anyone who was different than them. Never interacted with someone who was gay or someone who was Hispanic or whatever the case may be. Someone who was Muslim. So Donald Trump comes along and he's inciting fear in all of these people, saying, yeah, let's take the country back. These people are taking over. You know what I mean? And it's just, here we are today in 2016 with the whole new thing. How do you think he will govern, bro? How do you think Trump will govern, dog?
Well, it's kind of interesting. The only benefit of Trump that I can see right now, Trump being in office, is the fact that it will balance out our Supreme Court. if, and I'm pretty sure he will, if they appoint a conservative judge.
Oh, he's going
And
conservative.
I think
He's definitely going conservative.
yeah. So I think that will be good in the sense that because there's already an imbalance, and I don't think our country should have an imbalance in anything. Right? I think that's the idea of a decent idea of democracy is that there's enough balance on both sides so that both sides can have a say, and we argue it out. But if you're going to be imbalanced on the left, then I think that's unhealthy because everything that the left wants will get pushed through. So I think this is somewhat of the only bright spot I can see right now, because everything else he's not proven himself. Like he has no history of public policy whatsoever.
None.
So it's hard to even judge like what he's done in history, other than the fact that he's failed. Well, I'll say failed, but he used the system the bankruptcy laws to get away with bad business practices that he's used prejudice against allowing certain people to live in his home. I will say that the House and the Senate, I guess, is another bright spot is I guess I kind of grown to like Paul Ryan a little bit in the last couple of months and year. He seemed to come around. I think there are a lot of conservatives who recognize that Trump can be dangerous,
right?
And so I think they will help balance out a very, I don't know, I guess you could say there's someone who doesn't seem to have much of a balanced temperament to him.
Yeah.
So, but this is the thing. At the end of the day, is this, and I don't want to suppress anybody's anxiety with platitudes, but I will say that, man, no matter if Hillary or Trump, at the end of the day, man, I do think there's a couple things that I'm encouraged by. One is that, like Jesus, he's still God.
Yep.
And though there's some real concerns with people, at the end of the day, like, Christianity is never meant to be a suppressing force that makes people live the way that we live. In scriptures, it's mostly been, especially in the New Testament and in a lot of parts of the Old Testament, it's primarily been a religion of oppression. People who were oppressed and looked at its rulers and said, "Though you slay me."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So in that sense, I do think Christians we have examples before us to really truly see how we are to live and worship despite what the government does and what the government says. And the other thing is, I think
Christianity was born in a place with oppressive.
No, absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely. But that's been inverted now. Like today, we don't want, like, we desire comfort,
right?
And so comfort is an idolatry. And so what we have are people who seek to make sure that our policies create comfort for us, rather than doing the evangelizing and the work ourselves. We're just like, well, let's just put somebody in office who will create measures to make me feel one, comforted, and also continue to allow me to be powerful and privileged. So I don't really know how he'll govern. Now I will say this: if Hillary was in office, I would have just as much concerns because of some of the things that she's done in the past and her policies, whether it be women, the unborn, the way she thinks about the unborn, the way she views family values, and how she views foreign policy. Those are some things that just kind of concern me. So yeah, man, I don't know. I mean, I'll just say this: I'll be praying for this brother, and hopefully, there's some sense about him, and he puts some people around him who are smart, wise, and make good decisions.
Man, I think that's the best thing. I was talking to my mother about this morning, and she told me one of the things that happened to her when she got a really big, this was the biggest job of her career, and she's retired now. But when she got the job, the first day she was in the office, she was sitting alone in the office, and she was just like, dang, now I really got to do this.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And so, you know, a lot of people have that moment when they, you know, it's like you want something. I mean, look, we have it as entertainers and artists. It's like, man, I want that big show. And then it's like, I'm setting my turntables up on the stage, and I'm looking out, and I'm like, dang, man, it's about to be like 5,000 people here. Like, I got to rock this joint.
Yeah, you like, I don't know if I can handle this. I don't know if I can.
You start praying.
Absolutely.
You start praying. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I just, you know what I mean? Like, I hope that we can, wherever you fall on this political spectrum, you know what I mean? Like, you got to pray for this man, because for all intents and purposes, he is the most powerful man in the free world. And there's a lot that comes with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's not beyond redemption. Right. He's not somebody who's beyond our prayers and grace. And
right.
So no matter if you hate him or not, like, you know, you God has called us to be the people who pray and respect our authority. Yeah. And this is the very thing that a lot of people hated, that folks who didn't support Obama. So we can't become the very thing that we hated. We can't become the things that we despised about those who opposed things that we supported. Even though I wasn't like a supporter of Obama, I recognized that I didn't like how people on the right would treat his authority.
Yep.
And in the same sense, people who don't support Trump have to respect his authority if they want to excuse themselves from hypocrisy. So.
Yeah, that's good. Yo, are you and Prop gonna do some more spotlight dates?
I think we are. But probably won't do it until like January or February. Sure. I'm trying to do a tour. Hopefully we'll make some announcements. I'm doing an album release party and a tour. So, yeah, that's the goal.
Man, you working, my brother.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Well, you got them kids, man. We hear them in the background, so you got to work, dog.
Yeah, man, I got you, brother. I got a wife who likes to do stuff. So, but she paints, so she helps out with her painting stuff. Y'all like some dope paintings, like you holler at your boy.
There you go. There you go, man. That's good, bro. Hey, listen, man. It's always a pleasure, my brother. And you know, thank you for sharing this, bro. Because again, I feel like so many people. Like I had my best friend call me this morning at 7:30 this morning. He never calls me that early. And I was just like, yeah, dudes, everybody's trying to process this right now, man. So, yeah, you know. But that's
that was part of my struggle was I hate to feel like I know people are expecting or wanting to hear from me.
Yeah.
And I just wanted my first communication to be something that was useful and beneficial. I didn't want to tweet something. I didn't want to tweet. I don't want to Facebook anything because I recognize that everybody's doing it. I was like, well, what can I do? And so another interview I did with GGC in this interview, I think is helped me to process and to share my thoughts about this election. So I thank you for having me, bro.
Man, always, my brother, always, man. Narrative in stores now if y'all don't got it, man.
Both.
On the Wade Radio Show. On the Wade Radio. On the Wade Radio Show. Where it's much more than music, it's ministry.